There's a belief that doesn't get talked about enough, and it's this quiet belief that somehow you're behind in life. Not loudly behind, not in a way that other people would necessarily notice, but internally. It feels like everyone else got the memo, but you. The idea that you're behind usually isn't based in reality. It's coming from an internalized timeline. Somewhere along the way, you learned what your life was supposed to look like and when. And your system is reacting if not meeting that timeline means something has gone wrong. The good thing I want you to know is timelines are learned. They're not inherent. Welcome back to my podcast, Life Interrupted. My name is Janelle, and you're probably listening to this episode because you're feeling behind in life. Or you might know someone who's feeling behind in life. Go ahead and share this episode with them. Some people experience shame, feeling stuck, regret over past decisions, panic, and comparison. Although there isn't a universal schedule for when we're supposed to reach a certain stage in life, the nervous system reacts as if there is. It's an emotional experience, but it's also cognitive. It lives in the body. It shapes your decisions, and it changes how you see yourself. Feeling behind in life is such a normal human experience, but we often believe we are the only one having this experience. You might tell yourself, I should have been married by now. I should have a better job at my age. I should have my own place. I missed my window to have children. Does any of this resonate with you guys? The idea of feeling behind in life can have such a negative impact on our self-perception while overinflating the idea that everyone else is further along in life. You might have this internal clock that's ticking, putting unnecessary pressure on yourself to achieve more at a faster speed. I'm going to discuss a 4-step framework that will help you put your timeline into a realistic perspective so you can better manage your mind and your body's reaction to feeling behind in life. Let's get started. The 4-step framework includes identify the timeline you're measuring yourself against, break your goals down into smaller pieces, disrupt comparison, write down what life would look like if you didn't feel behind. Let's get into action number 1. Identify the timeline you're measuring yourself against. Sometimes these timelines come from family, social media, and seeing our peers and strangers celebrate certain milestones and goals. As I previously mentioned, timelines are learned behavior. So, what age were you when you realized you needed to meet certain deadlines at a particular age in your life? For me, I learned about timelines from school, my peers, television shows. You graduate high school, you go to college or university, and you get a job. Television shows showed women getting married in their mid to late 20s and having children soon after. Growing up, anything outside of this order, people gave you the side eye. At that time, being over 35, not married, and no children, you were considered a spinster or over the hill. You run into old friends and family, and they haven't seen you in a while. Their first question is, what are you doing in life? You married yet? Any children? There's this pressure to provide a response that meets societal expectations of where you should be at your age. Growing up, you might have seen your family question other family members about their status. Or you watch a show like Say Yes to the Dress, and most of those women are in their mid-20s. I had a friend tell me her mom once told her she better hurry up and have children because her eggs will dry up soon. She was in her early 30s. Take that in for a moment. Nowadays, we have access to a complete stranger's life via social media. We see it all, and it's easy to start comparing ourselves with total strangers, even though we don't know what challenges or setbacks they've experienced in their life. I want you to take a step back and be an observer of your life. Even though it is a part of the human experience to face challenges, research shows when people have trouble in life, it shapes their goal outcome. My point is, when you are an objective observer in your life, you'll notice certain challenges contributed to the delayed outcome of your goal, or how far you thought you would be in life. For example, you might have grown up being a people pleaser for survival reasons. Being a people pleaser pushes you further away from yourself by aligning with the needs and wants of others. Let's say you started therapy at the age of 38, and you're now unpacking all this information. You're learning how to reprogram your nervous system by acknowledging your own needs and wants. And you're healing from what caused you to be a people pleaser to begin with. You might feel behind in life if you measure yourself against someone who didn't have to experience what you did growing up. You're racing against someone who had a fair start in life while you had a ball and chain around your ankle. Identify what you're measuring your timeline against and adjust it to a timeline that works for you, because you're probably trying to live up to someone else's expectation of your life. Action 2. Break your goal down into smaller pieces. So if your big goal is to get married, ask yourself, have you done the work on yourself to receive a quality spouse? Many of my past clients wouldn't even recognize a quality spouse even if he came knocking on their door. I would hear, why is he texting me to see if I got home? He's making plans for our second date, why? Or, he's too nice, I need someone with a little edge. It's fair to say these women were not ready for a consistent, attentive, kind man who showed interest. They were stuck in old patterns, still accepting breadcrumbing behavior from emotionally unavailable, disinterested men. If we break down the desire to be married into smaller pieces, start by doing the work on yourself. Go to therapy, unpack childhood wounds that keep you engaging unhealthy people, read self-help books, learn about your attachment style, do some self-reflection, ask your trusted friends for feedback when it comes to your dating style. Doing the work will move you closer to your desired outcome. Let's break the marriage goal down even further. When was the last time you put yourself out there? Other than going to work, do you leave your home? I was one of those women who thought my husband would show up at my doorstep. I was one of those women who thought my husband would show up on my doorstep. Well, I can tell you my finger is still bare. So clearly that hasn't happened. Seriously, you must be open to the possibility that your spouse isn't going to show up at your doorstep. They might be sitting in a bar watching a sports game, they might be at a conference, or they might be at a social event. They might be grocery shopping, they might be at a patio, or they might be in another country. The point is, leave your house. Your future spouse might be online dating. Get your feet wet, sharpen your communication skills, learn how to write full sentences instead of speaking emoji lingo. The point is, you must put yourself out there. Something else I want you to think about is, how do you feel about yourself? How do you present to the world? Do you roll out of bed unkempt? Do you put effort into your appearance? I want to be clear, this isn't about being attractive. It's about self-respect and how you treat yourself and how you want others to treat you. How you carry yourself also determines how you feel about yourself. I knew someone who believed she was overweight. She tried to hide herself from the world, and she wore clothing that reflected how she felt about herself. She blamed her weight on why she wasn't attracting men. I asked her, how do you present to everyone else? She would roll out of bed, clothes unkept, hair unkept, and she never made eye contact with anyone. She finally realized this wasn't about a man. It was about her self-respect and how she treated herself. After doing the work, she started to dress for her body size, wear clean clothes, she did her hair, and she worked on making eye contact with men and women. She was practicing smiling, women would compliment her outfit, and men would smile at her making eye contact. She realized she was holding herself back because of her own beliefs about herself. Breaking your goal into smaller pieces helps to identify where you're getting stuck along the way. It also makes the bigger goal more manageable and attainable. Once you incorporate action, you might feel less behind because you're working towards your goal. Action number 3, disrupt comparison. How many of you have heard comparison is the thief of joy? Well, it's a true statement. People aren't comparing truth for truth. They're comparing their behind-the-scenes life to someone else's highlight reel. Comparison is the thief of joy because it's built on incomplete information. You don't know the context of the other person's life you're comparing yourself to. You're comparing yourself to someone who might have had access to certain resources or supports that you don't have. Or you're comparing yourself to someone who worked years to achieve the success you currently see. Comparison pulls attention outward instead of inward because it pulls you out of your own life and into someone else's timeline. You might be ashamed of your life, your background, and who you are. Comparison doesn't inspire, it quietly reinforces the belief that you're not enough. It's important to note comparison isn't just about jealousy or envy. It's our primal instinct for safety. If we think about social comparison theory, people evaluate themselves based on how they stack up against others to understand their place in the world. This shapes self-perception, motivation, and well-being across all social contexts. The social comparison theory has two main comparisons: upward towards superior others, which can motivate growth but risk envy, and downward toward inferior others, which can boost self-esteem but foster complacency. If we go a little deeper, research shows that comparison isn't just cognitive, it's biological. Social comparison theory activates brain regions linked to reward, pain, and threat detection. Comparing yourself to someone above you can trigger social pain and stress responses. From a nervous system perspective, humans are wired for belonging and hierarchy awareness. Your brain is constantly scanning. Am I accepted? Am I falling behind? Do I have status? Or do I risk exclusion? Historically, being out of place in a group could mean danger or survival risk. Comparison is the thief of joy, but it's also a signal. It's your nervous system trying to figure out, where do I stand? Am I still safe here? To disrupt comparison, you have to normalize your pattern of behavior. You're not fighting comparison, you're interrupting it. If comparison is your nervous system trying to find safety, then the goal isn't to eliminate it. It's to respond to it differently. Try this breakdown. Number 1, notice it without judgment. When you notice you're comparing yourself, this creates separation instead of spiraling. Number 2, name what's happening. Redirect from the surface level statement, they're better than me, or it must be nice, to something more grounded. I feel unsafe. I feel behind. Ask yourself, what does this comparison make you believe about yourself? Number 3, regulate yourself before you reframe what's happening. Take a deep breath, unclench your jaw, slow down, and exhale. Feel your feet on the ground. Remember, your body needs safety before your mind can shift perspective. And number 4, return inward and ask yourself, what would I want right now if there was no one else to compare myself to? The goal isn't to shame yourself for comparing. It's to recognize it, regulate it, and come back to your own life. The more you anchor into yourself, the less power comparison has over you. Action number 4, write down what life would look like if you didn't feel behind. When you feel behind in life, you don't ask yourself what you want. You ask yourself what would make you look like you're not behind. And those are two very different lives. You don't want to be rejected, left out, or seen as failing. Your brain shifts from safety over authenticity. At that point, your nervous system isn't focused on fulfillment. It's focused on closing the gap. What you want is not based on your personal need of fulfillment. It's based on what would make you look like you're on track. When comparison is active, your attention moves outward. You start using other people as a reference point. Their career path, their lifestyle, and their milestones. You decide to purchase a home you don't want. You take a job you don't care for, or you stay in a relationship that looks good on paper. Feeling left behind in life has you chasing dreams and goals that never belong to you. Perceived wants feel safer than true wants. Your real desires often involve uncertainty, visibility, and possible failure or judgment. Perceived wants such as status, timelines, and conventional success. They're socially approved, predictable, and easier to measure. Even if they don't feel aligned, they feel safer to pursue. Let me give you this example. Think about someone who wants to be an entrepreneur. They want their own business, they want to have their own employees, and they work the hours they create. However, their entire life they've been told to pursue a 9-to-5 with benefits and a pension. I remember prior to opening my own private practice, I told my grandfather my plans, and he said no. He said, stick to a 9-to-5 because it's better. He proceeded to tell me having benefits and a pension is safer in the long run. For some people, this is a true belief. Quitting a 9-to-5 and owning a business can be seen as risky and irresponsible. So, you decide to listen to the people around you who tell you it's safer to work a 9-to-5, even though it doesn't align with you. By the way, I didn't listen to my grandfather, and I decided to become an entrepreneur anyway. Although I'm currently in a 9-to-5, I consider it a pit stop. It's helping me to create the life that I want because I'm using the money to pay for certain areas of my business, like this podcast. Working a 9-to-5 doesn't have to feel like a black hole if you make it work for your future goals. If you want to stop feeling behind, the question isn't, how do I catch up? It's, what would I choose if I wasn't trying to prove that I'm on time? This question is important because the goal is to connect to yourself, your future authentic nature, not a timeline someone else created. Ground yourself in safety so you can move towards what you align with. Feeling behind in life is a natural human experience. It's biological, and the goal isn't to suppress how you feel, but to lean into it and normalize it. It's not always about jealousy or envy. It's about fear of rejection, judgment by others, and not feeling like you're enough in comparison to your peers. Comparison is indeed the thief of joy because it's built on incomplete information. Go to a quiet place and focus on you and your inner thoughts. Turn inward and ask yourself, if no one was looking, what type of life do I want for myself? Thanks for joining me on this episode. Stay tuned for a new upload next week. My name is Janelle. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Bye for now.